In 2008, Ring Magazine rated the 20 greatest welterweights of all time. 3 of them were Cuban: Kid Gavilan, Jose Napoles, and Luis Rodriguez. Rodriguez and fellow Cuban Benny Kid Paret would share the spotlight on top of the welterweight division in the early 60s. Sadly for Paret, his career would be cut short.
Benny Kid Paret was champion of the world. To me, every champion of the world means that he was the best at one point of his life in the whole world.
Louis, I tell you, he was a good person. He was a family man, a good family man. Always had his young son with him at the gym. Well liked. Didn't try to get into anybody's face. Would only give you good advice.
Paret was a funny guy. He got a very white face, very serious, but he was a real nice guy. Paret was the kind of guy that he was playing domino, right? He was playing domino for 25 cents, right? Paret had in his pocket maybe $5,000. But for 25 cents, he fight with anyone, right? That's the you don't want to lose.
Paret from Santa Clara and Rodriguez from Camagüey had been boxing together since their teens. They fought twice in 1958, with Rodriguez winning both bouts.
Paret was very good, very good. But Luis Manuel was class.
What about Luis Rodriguez? What do you think of him as a fighter?
Oh, come on. Rodriguez was an outstanding champion, an outstanding fighter. He had the natural qualities, smart, which is, he was outstandingly smart, that guy.
At the time of the revolution, they were already in the U.S., Rodriguez in Miami and Paret in New York. Their choice was simple, yet complex. If they stayed, they could continue boxing. But if they stayed, they could never go home again.
To me, you got to be a special breed. Imagine the hardship these poor guys had to go through, leaving their homeland, leaving their family. It was tough, but they overcame it, and they gave the boxing world a lot of good moments.
We were Cuban refugees. We needed something that showed success. And Louis had just won the welterweight championship of the world. That to us was success. And I'll never forget, I'm in school, and I'm running around telling other kids in school, Luis Manuel Rodriguez won the welterweight championship of the world, and he's Cuban.
He did it all in the exile, and he did it in the transition period where most of the Cubans that are here now were getting over here and working, factory jobs and not having even time to worry about boxing. The majority of Cubans, when they get over, they wouldn't follow, not just follow boxing, they couldn't afford to go to the fights. And that's why, and they don't realize what he did in the fighters that he fought all over the United States and the world and actually beat.
I learned a lot of stuff from Louis. I learned, how to jab and move, and how to turn, some stuff that he was doing to me that I caught on to. And the guy is just probably one of the greatest fighters that ever lived.
He had his own unique balance. It looked like he was on a pogo stick. He was very, very special. Had a jab that you couldn't get out of the way of it. And it was his own technique, the bend and the snap of the jab. It was terrific.
Always throwing punches. It was like a pogo stick throwing punches, always moving and throwing punches and throwing punches. And that beautiful jab, 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 then a quick overhand right, then he'd go downstairs and work the body, and he'd be here, he'd be there, he'd be here, he'd be there, but the whole time throwing punches, throwing punches, throwing punches.
When my turn came to fight Rodriguez, he was very good, and he was fast, and oh man. I just said to my manager, Clancy, you sure you want me to fight him, this fast guy? And Clancy said to me, yes, you can fight this fast guy and you can win also. I said, okay, let's go make the fight. And the next thing I'm in the ring fighting him.
The only time he walked into a ring and had his knees shaking was his first fight against Rodriguez.
I would say he was one of the toughest guys that I was boxing out there. And he won one, I won one. As a matter of fact, I won two, and he won one. Hey, I was happy for that.
It was like going from high school to a major college when you boxed with Luis Rodriguez. Watching him spar with other fighters, you think to yourself back then, well, you know, I could do okay, I could jab and I can move and I can get away with some of the things that I've been taught. Wrong, you can't. He was perpetual motion. He would be in front of you with a bobbing and weaving type of style.
Well, when I knocked down Luis Rodriguez in the first round, it was like, I couldn't believe it, number one. But I could believe it because I would start fast. So I took a shot. I slipped his right hand, went under it like I can do, and I threw a vicious left hook that caught him right in the button. And he was down. He was the Luis Rodriguez that you talked about. He was a tough son of a gun, tough son of a bitch. Got up.
I think Louis may have been the unluckiest fighter who ever lived when you trace his whole career. I'm told, as an amateur, Louis was the best. Beat Benny Paret twice in the amateurs. When they come over here, who's the first one that gets the title shot? Benny Paret. And then everybody's, you know, Benny Paret, Emile Griffith, Benny Paret, Emile Griffith, and Louis is kind of in the background. But Louis is beating every tough welterweight and middleweight in the world.
I sparred a lot with Emile, and my idol was Luis Rodriguez. And if you had to have me pick between the two of them, I couldn't. They both were great.
Louis did get overshadowed by Emile because Emile was a house fighter in New York, and he had the perfect place to fight. Louis had to fight everywhere.
I don't want to use the old analogy, always, you know, the bridesmaid, never the bride, but I think in a very real sense that pertained to Louis. He was always right there, knocking at the door for the very brief time, held the championship, and unfortunately lost it right away. The rivalry was between Griffith and Paret. That's what people focused on.
Then you got the tragedy with Benny Paret. So everybody's talking about the tragedy.
I was screaming to stop the fight, stop the fight. And I thought that the fight was stopped too late.
Paret, he got a big heart. He was the kind of guy that he was not afraid to nothing. He was the kind of fighter, 3 or 4 punches, you give it to him, I say, you give me 4, I'm gonna give you 6. And I came back, and he came back, and he came back. I was in the ringside with my wife the day of the fight of Benny Paret and Emile Griffith. When I see Paret going down, little by little, I see his face, and his eye was white. So I got my wife I said, let's go. This man, you not want to make it.
Benny was a guy who used to take a great punch. It was not easy to knock him out. Benny Paret fooled us because he used to take great punches.
Benny Kid Paret was not a puncher, but he was a very good fighter. He was not afraid of any of his opponents. But Paret made a mistake when he moved up in weight to fight Gene Fullmer. I believe that Fullmer did the most damage to Benny Kid Paret. Then 3 months after Fullmer destroyed him, he fought Emile Griffith. He was in no shape to fight Emile Griffith. Next day I went back to the hospital to see him, and I met him, I see him, and he was unconscious. I went to the bed, to where he was laying down. I was telling him, hello, Benny, I know you're not going to talk to me about you. You know who I am. Yeah. I'm Gasper Ortega. I hope you can make it, and I hope you can get better. And give me your hand. And he went like this. He can talk, but he squeezed my, it's very nice. I can feel it squeezing. Oh my God. Then I went home, and after that, I cannot sleep for a week.
Well, I don't think about Benny now. I just keep on doing what I have to do. He was a very good fighter. We were two battlers. I really don't think of him about the fights that evening. When the fight was over, I was glad it was over.